I would like to welcome you to the panel Psychedelics in Contexts of Armed Conflict. This panel is very dear to me personally, and I would like to say a few words before we begin. So during this panel, we will touch on highly sensitive and potentially triggering subjects for the speakers and for many in the audience. We are asking what happens to our neat models of trauma and healing when they get entangled in complex geopolitical realities. How do we heal trauma in the midst of conflict when aggression and further traumatization are still happening? There might be intellectual and emotional discomfort, challenging views, and frustration. I would like to ask you to stay with these difficult feelings and to accept that matters may remain unresolved and that neither justice nor peace will be achieved at the end of our discussion. I would also like to kindly ask you to open your heart to complexity, to gray zones where a fighter, a civilian, a hero, and a victim may be the same person, where inflicting trauma and suffering from it are not mere opposites, but parts of ongoing circles of violence and grief. The speakers in this panel are neither theorists nor politicians. They have agreed to come here to share from their lived experience of trauma, healing, peace building, and research in places where war is a daily reality. I ask you kindly to allow them to do so by respectfully keeping your questions and concerns to the Q&A part. At the end of the panel, there will be people here available. Cato and Dan, could you please raise your hand? Available for you. They are hosted, they are experienced facilitators, and they will be open here to follow and to discuss any difficulties with anyone who wants to express feeling or continue the conversation further. Some of the speakers will also stay to talk with you if you want after the panel. Thank you for taking part in this challenging and important discussion. And just before I hand it to our moderator, I would like to shortly introduce our speakers. So Oksana Grishenko is a clinical psychologist and the country director of Heal Ukraine Trauma, a nonprofit scaling psychedelic-assisted mental health care amid war. Suleiman Khatib is a committed advocate for peace in the Middle East, actively participating in peace-building initiatives through various programs and nonprofits. Lisan Dejuru is a psychotherapist, researcher, and artist working across Montreal and Kigali as clinical director of the Black Healing Center and senior ketamine assistant psychotherapy at King Faisal Hospital's Ketamine Treatment and Research Center in Rwanda. Keren Sarfati is a senior trainer, clinical investigator, and co-founder of MAPS Israel and the Hakomi Institute of Israel. She leads the development of clinical studies and professional training programs in psychedelic-assisted therapy. And last but not least, our moderator, Anne Wagner, is a clinical psychologist, speaker, writer, and researcher working with MDMA in Canada. She is the founder of Remedy, a mental health innovation community, and of the Remedy Research Institute. Thank you. Please, Anne.
Thanks. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to see you and to get to be together. So what I'm going to invite each of you to do first is to situate yourselves a little bit about your context and about your work, so we get to know you a little bit better before we enter into more of our conversation. Okay, so I think we're starting with Lisa. Please go ahead.
So, I'm Lisa, mother of Ziga, daughter of Aimable, son of Pierre Claver Desjons. Mwene Nguije, Mwene Karenzi, Mwene Itondo, Mwene Karorero. Mwene means son of, but that's a story for another day. I was born in Rwanda, of the clan of the Abega, of the branch of Hongori, of Makara. Makara Chabami, the rebel. My grandfather was killed March 27th, 1962, because he would not pretend to believe what he did not believe. It is said that 2 men came for him. Shots were fired. They never found his body. My father was 18. He was the eldest of 6. He waited until he was 44 to stop hoping he might see his father again. My mother was imprisoned when she was 18 for a poem she wrote, allegedly. She was held for many months because she was seen as a threat to national security. My parents met when she came out of jail on a dance floor. Adamu was singing, Inshallah. I was born in Rwanda and raised in Germany, then Canada, as soon as my parents could leave the country. I grew up with silences. I learned that silence is not the absence of a story, but the shape it takes when there is no safe place to put it down. Our experience was that of exile. Then there was war and genocide, the end of meaning. So many perspectives. People inside of the country, outside, survivors and others. I found performance, playback theater, and we adapted it as a group to help hold all of it, all the perspectives, without excluding any. I work with difficult stories, my own first, then those of others. In every community, the same first fear, how to pass on memory without passing on the pain. I come from Cuba. The fire my father passed to me, Cuba, Cubajo, Cubana, to be here, to be with. I'm here to help keep the fire alive. Cubajo no Cubana, we are incomplete without each other. I'm not the clinician in a time of armed conflict. I'm one the conflict made from a distance across decades, through bodies and stories, and now through ketamine, in a room in Kigali where the stories finally have more space than ordinary language offers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
And we'll pass now to Karen. Me, like to go next.
Hi. I'm just waiting for my slides to come. That's yours?
Yes.
If you click
we had
forward,
last
I think.
one. Yeah.
Okay. Getting there. Okay, I will just start and maybe they can. So I'm Karen, I'm from Israel. I was born and raised in Israel, and I'm coming from Bulgarian descent. My grandparents came from Bulgaria to Israel after the Holocaust. I'm here for MAPS Israel. That was a non-profit that we opened in 2021. And for me, healing trauma is building hope in Israel and in the Middle East. This is Julieta Casimero, one of my teachers from the Mazatec people in Mexico, and I always want to start with putting my gratitude to her and the work she brought to the world. You heard I'm a senior trainer for MAPS and Lycos. I've been working with clients in different clinical studies for many years. And I'm also a social and peace activist in Israel for many years. And there is something strange being here from a professional point of view, and representing Israel in so many ways in such an intense time. And in Israel itself, I'm fighting the government, which is, let's just name that, a very extreme, fascist, violent government. And just holding in me both sides of being an Israeli and a Jewish woman, bringing the perspective and the narrative of a Jewish woman in Israel right now, and also fighting what's happening in Israel and what's happening in Palestine from our side. So I'm coming from a world of collective trauma, and those are many different kinds of collective traumas. There is the Bosnia-Serbia war, the World War II, Gaza in the last few years, and the Armenian Holocaust, the Israeli Holocaust, or Jewish Holocaust. And this is the water I'm coming from, and I think many of us are coming from. And just a word about collective trauma, it really touches the deepest layers of society, the personal, the collective, the financial, the touching and the rapturing all layers of who we are in the land right now. And the intention that I'm coming from developing a groundbreaking psychedelic protocols in Israel is offering those protocols to diverse populations. So we are creating a specific protocol for specific population. One of them is Palestinian Arabs in Israel right now, and also targeting indications, different indications. One of them is for women that went through sexual trauma, which is actually the main population that suffers from PTSD in Israel and in the West. And also looking at group-based scalability, how can we create a group protocol with psychedelics so we can scale the protocols and the access and also offer them in reasonable cost. This is our sexual abuse trauma center in Be'er Yaakov, and this is our Palestinian Arab team that is leading a protocol for Palestinians in Israel and in Arabic, looking at the specific needs of this culture in Israel. And this is the protocol of the group that we're developing in Israel, comparing group arm, only group, with a little bit of beginning and end of individual one sessions, meaning all the MDMA sessions are group-oriented, and comparing it to individual, the classic MAPS protocol, and hoping to show that the group study is as good in the safety and efficacy of the individual one. It's going to be the largest MDMA study in the world, 168 people. And this is the main intention. We hope to develop protocol that won't be relevant only for Israel, but also maybe for other places that goes through collective trauma.
Thank you, Karen, for that overview. And I think we're handing to Oksana next. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess also waiting.
Push it again. Okay.
So I wish I could be as poetic, but I think as our first speaker was, because when we do a lot of we do group ketamine-assisted therapy in Ukraine, and when we do it, the veterans that go through it, a lot of ancestral generational trauma comes up, because Ukraine is located in a very special place in Europe where all the wars go through. So it doesn't want to come up. So I'm representative of Heal Ukraine Trauma. It's a US nonprofit, and it's also a Ukrainian charitable foundation. And we work in mental health. Our mission is to work with veterans and their families, like we specialize in them, but of course the needs of mental health in Ukraine is for everyone. The scale is quite tremendous. We're talking about millions of people, like literally millions. Estimate that was supposed to be on the slide from briefing for European Parliament was something like 5-6 million of veterans and their families. Right now, there are about 1.4 million registered veterans. So the scale is enormous. And right now, most of the people are fighting. So we're kind of feeling like we're working against the tsunami, because we know as soon as it stops, we will need to be ready. I mean, we're working now. It's not like we're waiting for anything to stop. The waves are going now, but the tsunami is probably in the future. I think anything can be done? No? Okay. So, I wanted to give a context, and maybe if the slides will come up, I'll be able to show them. There's this pretty map, I guess, from the Institute of War Study, and it shows a live map of where the Russians are, where the Ukrainians are, and also like which part was occupied, which was deoccupied. It also shows how big the country is, how European it is, how close it is to you, how close it is to us now. Like, for instance, when we got advice, all of us, to, don't use the planes because it's not good for the environment. I must say I did quite well. I should get one of those prizes because the journey from Kiev to not Warsaw, I calculated to Krakow, is 900 kilometers. From there, I did take a plane. I'm sorry, I kind of thought I did enough for ecology. But many people actually do ask me, how do you travel, and don't know that our airports don't work. They don't work since 22. The war actually is from 2014, so it's fifth year of all-out invasion, but it is, that's yours, no? Yeah. But it is the 13th already year of the war from Russia. There it comes, the structured, helpful slides. Let's go through them quicker. So, Heal Ukraine Trauma, 2 organizations, mission, the beautiful map. And you can see, it is actually funny how they marked in blue the stuff that we got back from Russians. It's not water, it's land. It's, if you see around Kiev, for a period, we were kind of under siege, and I and my husband were in Ukraine right then, and we've been there all the time. And there's Lviv, and there's Poland, and there's at that edge is Netherlands. And considering everybody expected Ukraine to be taken over in 3 days, maybe a week, you can imagine how fast Russia could get, I don't know, Germany somewhere. Now, I'm not scaring anyone. I'm just trying to explain that we were, in 2013, completely and utterly peaceful people who didn't even have one death at demonstrations. We didn't remember about war only from what our grandparents told, probably like you heard from your great-grandparents and grandparents about Second World War. That was the last time we knew about conflict. And yet for the last 12, now it's 13th year, we live in war. Last 5 years, well, 4 years, it's the 5th year now, we live in extreme war, where our men and women go and fight, where our civilians are under continual attack, where we never know what the future will be, and it is existence of constant feeling that somebody is trying to kill you and extinguish you so you don't exist. Let's see. I will try to make it faster because, oh, well, I guess, that is the quote, and let's see what is there. 5-6 million, like I said, 1.4 million registered veterans, 143,000 people with disabilities, and that's like a lot of amputations, a lot of very severe stuff, including a lot of very severe mental health, and so on and so on. Also, it says here the population is what, 40-something million? We do understand that quite a lot are now refugees, and we don't know how many will return to Ukraine. So that is also part of it. This is quite fresh. So what are we doing? And I'm talking right now about in Ukraine. There's actually an international alliance, and there was a meeting in Warsaw in spring of 25, and some of the people are maybe even here, I think, and some of the logos you might recognize. You see Rick Dublin in the center. I'm standing there next to David Nutt, a wonderful collective of people. If any of you want to join, please do. Of experts and therapists who train and help Ukrainians and also talk to our government to make other medicines available. What does my organization specifically does? We chose to initiate group ketamine-assisted therapy for veterans specifically, but really it can be, of course, scaled for all the population. We developed a group CAP protocol and manual. We trained therapists. Right now, about 42 therapists have been trained, not about, exact. We provide also support of the therapists we train to hold the group ketamine with veteran groups. Right now, there have been already 10 groups that have been taken that that got this treatment. And also just recently, actually this Monday and Tuesday, I already was on my way here, we had first professional group CAP forum with our partners, with organizations such as Ukrainian Psychedelic Research Association. My colleague is here in the audience, and co-founded the Ukrainian CAT Association. So all of this is to create that army of healers who will be meeting that tsunami. This is just a little bit, since we're here actually about research, right? This is our protocol, and you can see it's very flexible. We can have from 2 dosings of ketamine, which is usually used just for training, to up to 4. And right now, the most optimal one is 3 dosings, 1 week apart, with lots of prep, group integration, etc. This is how all our therapists who are trained go through academic, experiential, and then supervision. And this is how the experiential for the therapist looks. And you can see Simon Ruffle there, who is speaking in another room right now. So we have foreign experts come to Ukraine to conduct the training. Some help us online. So again, if any of you want to join and help, please do. And this is a photo of our veterans who are not veterans, I'm sorry, of our therapists, who actually, some of them, many of them also veterans themselves, conduct the groups with the veterans. I think I'll finish there. Sorry if it was a bit scumbled. I was hoping for a little bit more structure.
Thank you, Oksana. And then Suli.
Okay, is this work or not really? Shall I wait for the mirror start talking?
I think you're good. I think you can go ahead.
All right, I give them 2 slides. My name is Sulaiman Al-Khatib. I'm Palestinian. I live in Ramallah, in West Bank. And I am a co-founder of a Palestinian-Israeli non-violence movement called Combatants for Peace. And also, I'm with the we're doing a collective liberation ritual, which hopefully will show you some pictures. We did a workshop 2 days ago with Rebels Collective. So this is basically my life divided into this. But my background, before I come to this work, I joined the Palestinian armed resistance when I was 13, 14. And then I ended up in jail as a political prisoner when I was 14 and a half. I spent my teenager time in jail for 10 years and a half. That's my background, so I don't come from similar background of people here. Through the jail time, I participated, organized also a lot of food hunger strikes in order to improve the daily life in jail. And that's how I transform into nonviolence and the power of nonviolence. And I am aware it's very hard to convince people that nonviolence works. But for me, this was a practical experience in jail. When I was 15, I was in the hunger strike for 16 days with other prisoners. We always succeed, actually, to achieve our demands, which is basically the daily life, the conditions inside the jail. Just to mention here, while we're talking, because maybe some of the conversations here about post-conflict and trauma healing afterwards, while we're talking, the trauma is really happening right now while we're talking. So I want really to highlight this as a fact. We're in the middle of it. Also, we're not talking about 2 equal sides. It's very important for me that the groups I'm part of recognize the power dynamic, the occupation, the apartheid system that exists already. So with that said, after jail time, because it's a long story, so I'm not gonna be in details, but after jail, I also become open to have Israeli partners that refuse to serve in the Israeli system, in the army. These are the partners I work with. In order, I think our freedom is really connected. This reminds me, even in jail time, like a Palestinian poet, his name Samih Al-Qasim, wrote from his small cell in jail to the jailer, to the police. He wrote, from my small jail, from my small room, from my small cell, I see you in your big jail. And that actually, I was yeah, so the idea of freedom is really depend. And also the power dynamic, there is the physical, practical part, but there's also the spiritual part. That's really for me important to bring here. And I was personally inspired by some of the leaders like Mandela that was in jail when he spoke about collective liberation for the oppressed and the oppressor. And by saying this, it can trigger a lot of people. I'm aware of that, but while, as I said, recognizing the power dynamic and the generational trauma that's really still happening, as I said, I come from a strong place personally. I'm aware of the victimhood and the mindset there and the challenges, but also I always, in jail specifically, believed I have a choice to be stronger than the reality. That's how I grew up in my jail time. And this is coming from our culture, something we call the sumud, which means steadfastness. My sister was born when I was in jail because my brother was in jail. I come from activist family, and her name was Sumud. So this is really very important spiritual element to bring into the conversation. And also, I come from a very ancient family that lived in the mountain of Jerusalem for generations, that practiced something called sulha, which means reconciliation. This is really thousands of years of tradition. So I also grew up with this culture from my childhood. So it's really important kind of linking our work of conflict resolution, of whatever it's called, it's not just a Western theory of conflict resolution, that it is really exists in many of the indigenous tribes, where my family still practice this, and many of our people. So that really helped me to deal with the power dynamic, with the oppressed and the oppressor, and who's the prisoner. Despite the suffering that's really numerous, it's crazy. It's like, especially in the last years, the genocide in Gaza and what's happening in West Bank now with the settler violence that's going into a stage that we never seen, supported formally by the Israeli government. This is not just a few crazy settlers. This is really the system. With that said, I'm in my circle, in my community, in my organizations, we do a lot of activism to basically, I would say, want to bring the truth and to fight the unjust system that exists in the land, and also to show there is another way, there is another possibility, because the system has really managed to kill any imagination of any other possibility. And some of us maybe have the privilege to say, and the inspiration and the spirit to show this, there is another way. And there is, the imagination has to come back into the scene, because there is a lot of hopelessness, and the hardest thing is really to sell hope. And for me, as I said, I'm privileged because I always accused to be optimistic, but that always helped me, and I got this through my mom. I think it's a lineage in the family. It's not something intellectual I read here and there. Shall I continue, or there is a slide? I can keep going.
If you want to click forward to see.
Oh, yeah. I don't know which one.
It's the green one.
Okay. I'm old school. I'm not good in technology, so I. Oh, okay. So this is what we do under the ritual of collective liberation, where the truth is recognized, and also we don't fall into, the comparison of. It's always hard. I just want to recognize that I come from the Palestinian narrative, recognizing that other narratives is no easy thing, right? But I'm very connected to my roots, and that enabled me actually to see the suffering of the individuals, including the Israeli side if there is violence. I have no problem of recognizing that. My problem is the Israeli system, not the people, not you, as you know. So this is what we're doing in the last couple of years. We also come from a bit of psychedelic, some of us background, I'm kind of new to the psychedelic scene. Yeah, and we just did workshop. Some of you were here 3 days ago. I think we can go to the second thing.
You can do the thing.
Okay. I'm always thinking somebody in control somewhere. That's what the occupation does to our mind. Okay, shall I just keep going?
Keep going, yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. All right. I would like to show you this trailer of 2 minutes.
We find that we actually have something in common. That willingness to kill people you don't know.
جينا نوصل رسالة هون بشكل مشترك وبصوت مختلف يعني لكفلسطين والإسرائيليين.
Survival is not by killing your opponent. It's by turning them into people you can work with.
And October 7th burst that bubble.
This is something on a whole different scale.
It's starting to be clear that people are being taken.
The world ended that day.
The Israeli response was immediate.
نحن نلخمين بخيوط دم ونحن نهاجم بيتم. وين الإنسانية؟ وينهم؟
We lost people.
في ناس كمان قرروا إنه يروحوا على الجيش.
Anyone joined the violent circle is no longer my partner.
It is now that you have to show your commitment. It is when it's hard.
The most difficult thing in life is to put yourself really in the shoes of the other.
The fire is not only in Gaza, it's all over the West Bank.
وبخليك يعني ما تتحنى بالشوربة تاعتك يعني احنا قاعدين واقفين على رجل واحد.
We are loud. We are strong. We are fierce. But we will not meet them with their violence.
לא יכול להיות pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, זה צריך להיות pro-peace.
There is another way is not only limited to Israel-Palestine. It is a choice to be made everywhere.
Don't be afraid to be confused. Don't be afraid to shake your world. It's worth it.
Thank you, everyone, for situating yourselves and introducing yourselves to us. And so, to add on to what you've already shared, I'm curious to hear more about the actual context of this idea of working with psychedelics in the time of conflict, and how your work with psychedelics in this time of conflict, what is it looking like? What is it feeling like in this moment? So we can go, whoever, does anyone feel moved to go first, or I can call on you?
I can start. It's challenging. There is a lot of questions. First, I will speak about the Israeli population. It's not post-trauma yet. We are in a war in Israel and missiles and so on, and this is the Israeli narrative.
Feel free for me, I'm not canceling you.
No, I know. But for us in Israel, there is a real sense of emergency and insecurity. And what do we do with patients? Is it post-trauma? Is it trauma? The event is still alive. And there are real clinical questions that we're asking. So all our studies, and we have around 10 studies for PTSD in Israel right now, all our studies are not really post-trauma. So it's hard to know what will be the results or how to hold the therapy in the clinical trial while we have this situation going on. And I think there are two questions. One is in the short term. In one of our studies, we had an alarm during the MDMA session. What do you do? And how do you take care of the people and keep them safe and not in a traumatic event while this is happening? And also long-term questions. Are we going to help them? Are we going to create more damage? And it's been a few years now, so it seems like we're creating healing in terms of the results that are in our studies, and Monen Sidi is sitting here leading one of them, are good. It's around between 70 to 85% of without diagnosed after the clinical trial, and we have to see what happened in a year or, yeah.
Yeah, that really disrupts the narrative I think that we have a lot in trauma research, is that you cannot, quote unquote, you cannot do the treatment until it's over, right? And that goes directly
right,
in
so
the
it's a
face
new
of it.
field or a new experiment, you know. We'll be wiser in a few years, yeah.
I can add to it, like when we first had our first group of therapists, 8 therapists who were trained in group ketamine-assisted therapy, they also went through the experiential. And so our facilitators and trainers who came from America were honestly also worried themselves about the security and so forth. We were already kind of used to that. That was 2024. And when we were thinking how to conduct, you know, the actual dosing sessions, yeah, like because you can have an alarm any minute, and we kind of, I think, had somewhat better air defense at that time, like a bit more Patriots or whatever, but it was still not guaranteed, it never is. And the decision was to do it in a basement, in a, you know, not really a shelter, it's a basement that works as a shelter in a clinic, which looks very depressing, like one of those, I don't know, very scary online games, you know, old hospital equipment, you had to clear it all up, you have to make a beautiful, like, Christmas lights, whatever. It was a very beautiful location for doing a group therapy, group ketamine-assisted therapy, but it was tasking. The second group that came, the second group we trained in 25, and it was other therapists, but I guess also we kind of got more used to it. We already did just on the floor. We had a contingency plan. I mean, ketamine is not as complicated. You can still take the people and lead them to shelter. And the participants who were therapists, some of them military therapists, especially military therapists, were very worried about what if it will be the day of a big attack. So when the big attack happened like 3 days before our planned dosing, they were like, oh, now it will be fine, because, you know, it usually takes Russians about like a week to accumulate more missiles to do another big attack. So that was good. This year, it just happened this weekend, our first dosing. And if you followed, it was a little bit even on CNN still, you know, the Russian officially said, please take all the diplomats out, because we're going to be really attacking. So we're like waiting for the real big attack, because the previous one was really, really big. And I was like worried, are these therapists going to, you know, say, and we even asked them, like, do you want to not do it? Do you want to postpone? We will figure it out. Like, right now is where everybody is like calling us and saying, well, did American embassy leave the premises or not? They didn't, by the way. So I think in some ways, maybe it's like acclimatization, adaptation, maybe it's not exactly safe, right, appropriate, but this is our life. We need to learn, we need to train, we need to heal. We need to heal now while the trauma continues. And we had a wonderful dosing session, beautiful experience. Then we had a wonderful 1st of June forum of ketamine-assisted professionals. And then on the night from the 1st to the 2nd, we had the big attack. Was it good? It's still the window of neuroplasticity, right? But this is not something unexpected for this therapist. We live in this. This is our life. We went to shelters, etc., etc. And there are many questions for us as well, but we do know that we cannot wait for the post-trauma.
Okay. So, yeah, as you know, like in the Palestinian communities living under existential threat of occupation and displacement and ethnic cleansing and so on, it's really important to highlight that's where we are, like in the basic need, like in Gaza and the basic need of food and medicine. In West Bank now, with the settler violence and the army and so on. So this has to be in our consciously and awareness. With that said, I personally, as I work with what we call it a joint spaces, joint organizations that have Palestinian and Israelis, it's important to recognize these realities, and also knowing the system built on separation. The fact we could come together is radical by the eyes of so many people and the system, because the system wants us to be more separated and more hatred and more fear of each other, right? So and coming together is not just to say, oh, okay, we can come together, Palestinian, Israelis here, we can have coffee, hummus together. That's honestly not the intention. It's nothing bad with that, but the intention is really to transform the reality and to build the new reality and the new narrative. What they say, this bridge to the future is not easy. For me personally, somehow I said I'm privileged in my imagination, but also I think in my medicine experiences, this really helped me to imagine that reality where our peoples from the river to the sea are free. And I'm aware how hard for many people even just to imagine that. And in cooperation and love and choosing life than the situation right now. I was part of a psychedelic ayahuasca drinking together in a group of Palestinian and Israeli. There are some people doing, like you mentioned, like in the national group, to say, doing work separately, which is also important because of many reasons. But the joint work, when we had ayahuasca together, we actually did it in Spain, a bit of a safe space, because where we live, actually, the trauma can happen while we have the medicine. Actually, the army is everywhere, and like things can happen any moment. But also, for me, this was one of the most powerful experiences I ever had. I had a lot of violence in my life, before jail, in jail, and then to encounter this with Israelis in the same group, was really strong, like very, very strong, powerful. It's hard to describe it actually. Speak like being exposed, not filtered, and truth. Especially I come from a family, we lost a lot of my family land and olive trees that now behind the separation wall outside of Jerusalem. So all of these pictures came to me in the medicine. And even I attacked Israelis when I was 14. And also I seen them. Like now I can't remember their names and faces, but in the medicine scene, I seen them. So anyways, it's a long, but I felt personally it helped me so much. Especially I had a bit of my right leg used to be shaking quickly from, I didn't know from what, but then in the medicine I remember when I was 16, we were attacked in jail from the police with sticks and tear gas a few times. And actually since then I'm relaxed. My legs relaxed really. I connected with this during that journey. Just this is one scene.
Thank you, Suli. Beautiful. And Lisa, so we know we're in a different context.
I'm in a very different context.
Very different context.
But I'm thinking that it's very interesting. I think it's positive to start where we are and not wait for decades to start where people have been carrying the stories, so that we should be able to speak while we are in it, and then we can keep going as we go. For us, every April, it's April, and just before April, it's like everything is in suspension, and it's very heavy. And when you have people coming in, I realize that now it's been 3 decades, right? And so now it's the people who are in their 30s and who have children of their own that are struggling, because the violence is one thing that's in the narrative, but actually it disrupts everything. It disrupts all the families, it disrupts all the ways in which we, you know, where I grew up, I didn't grow up with this person, I grew up with this other person, it worked or it didn't work, and all of these other things that are not told in the story of, you know, that one word. And so I think that if we do work through and learn to work with what it is while we are doing it, I think we need it.
And I wonder, Lisa, if we could start with you with this question around thinking about, you know, we've had conversation as a group before this, and we've talked about both this idea of individual and collective healing, and also this idea of narrative. And I'm wondering what in your work and in your context, what you're seeing with that.
I think that it's really important. Violence is very specific. It's not abstract, it's specific and unique. There's a unicité, there's a specificity in the experience. And I think that that needs to be tended to for each person. And then there are these collective narratives that can elevate or that can
Yeah. You're going to pass the. Are we passing it?
I passed it on.
I just got it. I would say that from my point of view, I think we cannot heal trauma in a deep way, in a multi-dimensional way for societies, only with individuals. But we have to think collectively. And we have to approach like two different rivers, like the individual river is a path and the collective one. And I think it's our responsibility in Israel, in MAPS Israel, and as clinicians in general, because I think this crisis is all over. Like all of us in all countries and cultures right now are in deep suffering to some degree. I think we have responsibility to develop those ways of working and healing individually and collectively. Yeah. It's also a matter of practically, other than just healing societies and creating deep change, we cannot really transform major numbers of traumas with 2 therapists and 1 patient. It just won't work. So I think group studies that are being developed all over are really, really important. Yeah. Also, just to name that, Ripples and MAPS Israel are now working on a collaborative project of women, Palestinian women. Some of them went through deep loss in the Israeli context, and Israeli women that went through deep loss. And I'm saying it not to make it symmetrical, it's not. But the group is going to Mexico to go through mushroom sessions with the daughter of Julieta that I just showed. And we're very curious to see how we can work both individually there on the personal traumas, but also collectively, and see what kind of collective healing is happening between the 2 groups. And also to say that I don't think that there is pro-Israel and pro-Palestine. I think if we want to heal people, we need to heal the land. And we're not really separate, and I think the separation is an illusion. So, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, just adding, I think this is really one of the first times I see Palestinian Israeli women specifically that lost somebody in the family going together through this journey, and we're fully in support to this and see how it goes. I believe in, well, I come from a more collective community than individual, like in the culture in generally. I would speak more for the, my circles are more like the activists and peace building circles. These are my circles, and I believe actually the inner work and outer work is very important. From my experience, there are separation of a spiritual work, of people doing spiritual work and self-centered work, and there are people, activists, that doing direct action. Both are needed, but they need a bridge for them. And for me, this is the last couple of years, I personally, my agenda, I push towards that, because many of my activist friends that does really a great work on the ground, because there is the now and the future, and some people has to respond to what's happening right now, right? And some of the people are frontliners, they put their life in risk. So with that said, also I see it can be drained, and really there's a lot of need here for the inner work, because I think the change starts with us, not with the majority of the society. The majority are not gonna be activists anyway. And my invitation for people that I assume here, many are connected to medicine, is really also to connect to this, to the reality, to the ground, and to the people that doing frontline work. And I think in that sense, I mean really a collective work that brings healing to the collective. I agree there is also individual in this story, but I personally believe there is a need for, you know, like someone said, what's the theory of change here? Like, are we gonna wait for, you know, each Palestinian Israelis to travel to Mexico to do ayahuasca? That's gonna be a, like, so I think we need like models for the majority of the people to see something else. A model of healing, of collective liberation. That's what we need.
Well, you know, we straight away in HUT, like all our programs, we also do work with not psychedelics, with support for women and children programs with TRT, but they're always group. And specifically for group ketamine-assisted therapy, like I hear a lot, like there was this preparation for one grant, and the decision was to go for the group model. And I saw from a lot of psychedelic-assisted therapy, like researchers who did individual, kind of lacking of that understanding that a group is not just number thing. It's not just about economy. It's not just about having less therapists for more patient. It's about a different modality, and it's a great power of group therapy. And really, the same amount of dosings can be much more effective in a group setting if it's rightly, you know, put together and preparation and integration, etc. So it's a individual, of course, very important, but the collective has a power of its own. It's not just numbers. It is a different organism. And when talking about collective for Ukrainians, you know, there was like, I know for many, and even for me myself, there was a question, why didn't we fall in those first 3 days or whatever week? Yeah? Because our army was not bad, but it wasn't that strong. It was an individual decision of each person and then a collective decision to fight. Because I know the night before, for many people, they didn't think about or think a little bit. Only very few had actually thought about it seriously and prepared. And most, I talked with a lot of people, made their decision already when the rockets were flying, the tanks were coming, and everybody's like, oh. And yes, for many people, the right decision was to leave. And for many people, the right decision for them was to take arms because they didn't want to give up their freedom. So that is also collective. The collective is not only trauma, the collective is will to live, is will to defend their homes, is will to prosper even, yeah? And of course, will to heal. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like we could continue this conversation for quite a lot longer, but amazingly, we only have 4 minutes left. And so with those, we do want to offer an opportunity for questions. And I'm going to encourage, please, question as opposed to a statement for our wonderful panel. Hi.
Hello, thank you. My name is Andrei. I'm a psychologist and therapist from Romania, which is a country who has its own fair share of trauma, transgenerational trauma. And I was really moved by all the things that all 4 of you said, so thank you for that. A I feel a combination of motivation and fear right now. Because during these days, talking with other people here, and I'm grateful for that, it's solidifying inside me that I want to do something. And I was enthusiastic this morning and sent a screenshot of a study to my clinic, the clinic where I work with, where I'm a psychiatrist, clinical psychologist, but I was met with jokes and citations from the law, don't do this, it's illegal. So I guess my question is, in a country where half of the population is uneducated, most of the government seems corrupt, many professionals are against it in a dichotomic way, like yes or no. How should I start, or how did you start, if you can tell me? Thank you.
Anyone like to try? How did you start?
Well, I think that whenever you go to war, who are your allies? Don't go alone. It's a really good way to go towards madness. Go with people who are your people. And you find them if you don't have them there. Where are they? Let's go.
I don't think there is MAPS Romania yet.
Yeah, there is.
There is? So join them.
There's MAPS Romania?
MAPS Romania, yeah?
I didn't hear, but I will research.
We heard
the idea of an organization, if there's an organization in Romania to join with. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have time for a very brief one more.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for such a respectful discussion. Really lovely to witness. My question relates to the evidence base for existing trauma-focused therapies. So I have an EMDR background, and I'm surprised by the lack of discussion of evidence-based trauma-focused treatments. And when you speak to recent traumatic experiences or live trauma or group protocols, yeah, there is already a way of working with that within the evidence base and structures. So I'm kind of curious about the experiences of stacking psychedelics alongside existing treatments that are already being used effectively in combat stress, and whether you have lived experience of combining such treatments in those settings.
Well, I can comment, like we work with rehabilitation center for military, and they use everything. Yeah, and they use everything, and they learn, and I think the therapists there are becoming some of the biggest, and they still run out of tools, and so they need more tools, and combination and so forth, and a lot of it is going to be shown, but you need to have those tools to combine them, to see them, and to definitely collect data and see and try. But yes, in Ukraine at least, there's a lot, and it's being used.
I think that's the slightly frustrating thing, is that there's a very rapid evidence base building for psychedelic treatments because of the pharmaceutical development, but there's very little evidence around kind of the psychotherapeutic impact. And I suppose you guys at the front line have got an opportunity there to stack treatments in a way that perhaps in other areas of the world we don't. So really lovely to hear that's already happening.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for joining us. And let's give a big hand to our panel.
Thank you very much.